everybody. I'm very happy to be with, I hope with you this a little bit late this evening. It is a little bit after 9 p.m. on the East Coast. And we are doing what some of you actually wanted more of, which I'm surprised, but that's okay. Some of you actually wanted more of it. We're doing a policy meeting and we are doing it live yet again. I'm bringing in some of my team, Mr. Eric, Mr. Jerome, and Mr. Craig. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Well,
I'm good.
Good.
Larry.
Last time when we were chatting, we had brought up a bunch of bills and a bunch of ideas, but I think we should go back to something I think we missed, which is how do we fix or deal with the issues of East Palestine? How do we deal with that? And sadly, for those who were affected by that, we haven't changed a thing. Nothing's changed. There are still accidents happening. We are still set up for it to happen again. And as always, the government just said more regulation. This clearly is not the answer. Am I wrong here?
No, the regulations. So we saw this. Everybody always says, where were the regulators? The regulators,
yes.
The regulators left a long time ago after they forced the bill through Congress that their buddies paid for. They said, thank you very much. And they went on vacation. So
because they're regulators. This is the thing that people don't get. Regulators are always bought and paid for.
yes.
Always. So
And,
we can
and
make
they always will be always.
Yes. So we can make the strictest regulations possible and they're still just going to be bought and paid for. So we'll just make more regulations with regulators who are still bought and paid for. It's not going to change. I have a crazy idea. And my idea is grossly simple, right? Generally speaking, simplification is going to be the answer. That's not a 100% rule, but it's a good general rule, right? The reason why these guys are happy, meaning the railway people are happy that they're regulated, and they are. You will hear people say all the time, they don't want regulation. They love the fact that they are regulated. They love it. And the reason why they love the fact they're regulated is because they get to control the regulators, to Craig's point. They get to lobby the politicians to change regulations. So even if for some reason Biden decides we're going to crack down with the worst regulations possible, he decides that he's going to crack it all down and change all the things. Two things are going to happen. Number one, the technology is going to change. So the regulations are no longer valid. You see it with the EPA all the time, right? The regulations will change, so they're no longer valid. But the regulators won't change anything because then they don't have to upgrade. That's why those brakes were never upgraded. They weren't required to be upgraded, so they didn't do it because they only follow regulations. But the second piece of this is then the next guy or gal comes in and you bribe that guy or gal to take the regulations back to where they were again. So it's irrelevant. I'm saying simplify the regulations and make one rule, only one. If you want to be a railroad in America, you may. Here's the rule. You have to have insurance that will pay for everything. No cap, no nothing. You must have insurance that will pay for everything. Period. Good luck. Literally, that's it. Now, you might say, well, Larry, that's crazy because then the insurance companies will conspire. No, they won't because there's no regulations to protect them. So now when there's 40,000 lawsuits, the insurance company will have to pay for everything. Well, then, Larry, they won't insure the railroads. Of course they will. They will literally, I think we have Wilson coming in. Hey, Wilson, how are you?
hello, hello.
Hey, we're talking about fixing things in East Palestine. So if the insurance company has to pay for everything, then what will the insurance company do? It will create standards that will protect itself. And those standards will change as technology changes. Not just that, the insurance company will be happy for whistleblowers. Right now, whistleblowers are a pain because they make the government look bad, so they arrest them. But if you have a whistleblower that comes out and goes, hey, insurance company, if we had 3 people on this train versus 2, there's less chance of an accident. Insurance company goes, oh, we don't have to pay out? Your new rule. You want to be insured? You got to have 3 people on train. Done. or we're going to triple your prices, or the insurance company will by default, because the money is the insurance company's money, it will by default regulate them. And how do I know this to be true? 2 examples of this. Example number 1, health insurance. If you're part of a company that has health insurance, the health insurance companies will give benefits to the company if the company does certain things that will increase the odds of their people not being sick, right? And whether they're using a third-party administrator or whether they're using an insurance company, either way, they give them benefits and bonuses if that happens. Second piece, second example, health food stores, right? Health food stores have to carry their own insurance. They're not regulated by the FDA, and they do. And somehow they have enough standards in that industry to where people aren't dying from eating in the health food store. Am I off on this, guys?
To tap onto that, the insurance companies would probably welcome like outside people, like people who live in the area, saying like, "I looked at those tracks; they're a bit wonky, in my opinion." You call your city council member, they'd be like, "Yeah, what do you want me to do about it?"
That's correct. Yes, that's exactly right. Right. If you call your local guy and say, "Hey, the tracks look crappy," they go, "Yeah, it's federal stuff. What are you gonna do?" And they walk away. You call the insurance company says, "You better fix those tracks or I'm not going to insure you."
Well, at least they'll say, "Send us a picture,"
Something. Yes.
We'll definitely look into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, this seems like a federal issue. Now we're talking, when we're writing policies, are we trying to write a policy federally or are we trying to write a state policy?
In this case, I think it's federal.
Yes.
It? I mean, if it's going to be railroad, this is a federal policy.
Yeah, it's a federal policy. And
by default.
And you were talking about regulators.
Hold on. In theory, this is a good point, Craig. Could you write a state law that says this? And then if you want to go into that state, you still have to have the insurance. Now, the problem with that is there'd be massive disruption in lawsuits if you did it, right? If New York State decided, we don't care about regulatory bodies, we don't care. All we care about is you have to have insurance pay for everything. I don't know. The disruption and lawsuits would be crazy because if there was an accident in New York State would demand they pay. The federal government say, no, you don't have to. They're covered by our regulations. We protect our people. We're the mob. They pay us protection. So New York State, back off because we're the bigger mob than you, right? That's what they're going to say. That means lawsuits and problems. Does that then by default disrupt railways in New York State? Will they back out? Will they basically boycott New York State? Will there be a battle if we did some of this, Greg?
I think it depends on your geographic location. I think it's a lot easier to boycott South Dakota than it is New York State because everything comes through New York State. That's why we're the Empire State. Everything comes through here. It has ever since the canal and all that stuff. So I think it depends on what kind of a state you are. I do feel like, so the feds say, no, you don't have to pay. You're good. We got you. Can't New York State fights the feds all the time. What could New York State do to counter that?
Well, New York State would countersue, right? Wouldn't they just countersue?
I feel like
New York State say, hey, it probably, in theory, this would go to Supreme Court. Right. And the Supreme Court would have to decide which is senior, right? Is the 10th Amendment senior or is the Commerce Clause senior? Wouldn't that be the fight, Eric? You're the lawyer.
So I think you have an interstate commerce argument on why it wouldn't work. But like with railroad tracks, since it's like a fixture on the land, you could say if you're building a railroad track, we're not insuring the railroad. You who's building the railroad track, who intends on using it, now you have to insure that railroad track. And with that insurance, anything that goes on the railroad track, you can make an argument. I mean, they make arguments for God knows what and find indictments, right?
Well, so that was my point with I feel like it's got to be something outside of the courts because the courts, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a way for lawyers to make money. That's all the courts are because they just write
become
stuff
famous.
Right. They write stuff on paper and they put it in files somewhere. And then somebody else writes stuff on paper and they put it in files somewhere. And what changes in the real world? Nothing. Unless you upset the mob, then you go to prison. Then they find a way to do something. My point, though, too, with so right-of-ways are a big deal with
What do you mean?
right of ways with
Oh, okay,
the
good.
so this happened when His Majesty killed the railroad to Lake Placid. He wanted to build a bike trail there, and he tore up the railroad tracks. But according to the laws of New York State, once those tracks weren't there anymore, that wasn't a right of way anymore. The state didn't own it anymore because it wasn't for the railroad. But then His Majesty got the courts to decide that no, actually we do own it. But my point is, these states have right of ways to these travel corridors. It's the same thing with the waterways in New York State.
Right.
Those are roads as far as New York is concerned, because before we had railroads, we had to ship everything by water. So New York owned the water, just like New York owned the railroads, just like they own the roads. So I feel like you could do something with the right of ways if you're looking for a legal way. I feel like the right of ways is a thing, kind of like what you talked about with your Google roads and whatnot. I feel like the right of way might be the way to approach it.
Well, I'm going to throw out a less than legal argument. You do it, you have them sue, and then you make the, cry out to the public, be like, why is this a bad idea? Right? And they might just do it as a default, even if they're, victorious in court. Be like, well, we don't have to. Be like, but why is it a bad idea?
But my worry is twofold, right? How do we walk this down, right? My assumption here is, if anyone knows, please tell me. My assumption here is the rules and regulations are not laws. Right. So in theory, shouldn't it be easier to change the rules and regulations to make it one simple regulation instead of passing a law? Could this be an executive order if you were president? Is that legal in this case? And this, I'm not sure.
Again, you can do whatever you want until someone challenges you. But
realistic. Look, I don't want to be doing executive orders. I don't want to advise you to do executive orders if it's not real, right? But if this is in the purview of what executive orders, for those you don't know, if anyone's listening and watching, what executive orders were supposed to be, they're not at all now. They were simply supposed to be rules on how you enforce a law. They weren't supposed to be laws, right? So what was supposed to happen is someone would say, oh, you have to have a post office. An executive order would say, okay, when you build a post office, it cannot be this, it must be that. That would be an executive order explaining how to execute the law. That's what executive orders were supposed to be. Now they're just laws, right? So
now they're the only laws that we get.
That's correct. Yes, now they're the laws. But my point being, if you use an executive order to carry out a law, that is a valid executive order. So am I now saying, okay, we have to regulate interstate commerce? That's in the Constitution. Okay, so that's a legal thing to do. I'm doing an executive order to explain how we do that. Do you see my point? Is that a valid executive order, or am I going to have to literally change the law? If anyone happens to know the details of that, I'd like to know that, because how hard is this going to be? If we've got to get this through Congress, it's not going to Congress. The lobbyists are gonna. The odds of us getting past the lobbyists and getting this passed. Lobbyists don't want this passed, right? I mean, the industry doesn't want this. The railroad industry wants things to stay the way it is, right? They have about 1,000 derailments every year, and they're not complaining. They're making tons of money, and they're not complaining. They're fighting unions.
So get insurance lobbyists.
Yes, the government literally shuts down, breaks the union. The railroad wants nothing to change. So their lobbyists will fight this. The issue is, can we make this juicy enough for insurance companies, for the insurance companies to lobby the opposite way?
Yeah, get the insurance lobbyists to do it. Also, I think you could build a coalition. They do it all the time, where it's like the Farm Bill. So the Farm Bill involves food stamps. Most of the Farm Bill is a handout is welfare. And the reason they did that is because not enough representatives exist to vote in the affirmative for welfare, and not enough representatives exist to vote in the affirmative of agriculture. They put them together into the Farm Bill. Now we can get the votes. Now we can get the votes, and everybody gets money. So,
Yes.
so you would have to do that. I think you could do a coalition with the
So you're saying either this is an executive order or it's a coalition.
I don't think you want
bill.
to do it.
Well,
So it's a
I
stealth
think you
bill.
have to. I think, yeah, it has to be a bill. It has to go through Congress. You have to kill the EPA somehow, get them out of that, because they also protect, right? They are the ones that have the regulations about pollution of the environment or whatever. If my train spills shit in the water, now I'm buddies with everybody that's supposed to be regulating me. I'll be like, how much, what's the check? What is it? Like 10 million? That'd be enough. Okay, here you go. So you have to attack the environmental aid, which is why I'm saying maybe there's environmental interests of some sort.
But why does the EPA care in this regard? Right?
Well,
the EPA is a massive bureaucracy. It's not going away. Everyone's job is still safe. We're not breaking the EPA up. I mean, we should. But in this case, we're not, right? For this bill, we're not breaking the EPA up. So why does the EPA even give a damn? Why do they just go, okay, fine, whatever. I'm going to go off and, I don't know, stop people from making nuclear reactors or something, whatever they do.
Well, because go
ahead.
They've taken responsibility, right?
No, hold on. Let me let Eric on this one, Craig. Eric, go ahead.
Well, I think the obvious is that the EPA says, no, Palestine's safe. Drink the water. It's delicious. And the insurance company says, well, according to the EPA, it's delicious. And I don't know why you're not drinking it. So that's where our insurance is. Take it up with the government, right? They said it was safe. And now our liability is lower because in a federal court, be like, well, we relied on the noble EPA to tell us that this was safe and delicious. And you guys are the idiots for not drinking it.
Yeah, Eric said exactly what I was trying to say, which is that they're just going to be like, no, it's fine, because they're the ones because if they say it's not fine, then it's on them. They're supposed to protect us. They're supposed to make sure that we don't get poisoned. And if they say, oops, we got poisoned, now the EPA isn't our savior anymore.
What about the railroad administration? Wouldn't just engage them to change the rules and regulations that they have?
They're completely bought and sold right now. Bought and paid for.
Yeah, what Larry was saying was that they like being regulated because it's hands off. They don't have to be. It's the government that takes the fall for them and then bails them out if they do need it.
And if they're not bought now, they're hoping to be bought later.
That's correct. Yes, they will eventually be bought. Correct. Yes. I think the issue is you have to get someone. Right now, it's incestuous, right? The regulators are helping out the union bosses. The union bosses are helping out the politicians. They're all taking our donated and taxpayer dollars, and they're all eating. So why would you change everything? It's delicious. They're all getting tons of food. They're all making money. You've got to pull somebody who's not there, where their money is now on the line and they're responsible. The first thing I thought was insurance, right? Because insurance will find a way to insure anything, right? They will find a way to make money off insuring them. That's literally their job. They will find a way. And if they find a way, they will be more, because if an insurance company sues you, you're scared. The only people who could sue a railroad is like an insurance company. I can't sue a railroad. They'll laugh at me. An insurance company sues them, they get scared. So that's why I picked insurance. Do you think there's someplace else? Am I looking down the wrong place?
The workers weren't they trying to unionize for better conditions? Okay, so I'm just throwing this out there, and may or may not be a connection, but would encouraging or incentivizing worker cooperatives in that situation, would that be helpful towards
I think
I'm just throwing it out there.
I think you have to attack it on the supply end, not on the manufacturing. Like, so the workers would be the manufacturing end, right? I think you have to attack it. So like the insurance company is insuring basically anyone that lives next to train tracks or whatever, right? Against catastrophe. I think you have to attack it from that end, from the consequences end, not from the bottom end. Because it's just that's going through the railroad, and they're not going to do anything about it. They don't care. And then unless like you're talking buy the railroad and break it up into a workers co-op, like I don't know how you're going to get the railroad company to voluntarily say, yeah, we're a workers co-op now.
I don't think you have to, right? Here's the issue. I think you're onto something, Jerome, but I think it's a different. I think this should be a first top down to encourage bottom up, because right now there's only one union, and the government runs it. This goes back to our union issue from last time, right? How the government unions are terrible because you're negotiating without your own money, and in this case, it's even worse. Now the government's it's in the government's best interest to not let you strike, right? Because of regulations. But if you simplify the regulation to where the government's not involved in the union at all, what would happen? They would just strike. They would just strike on their own. They would have done it already, right? But the government stops them from striking because, you know, if it's COVID lockdowns, shut it all down. Shut everything down. It's COVID lockdowns. That's fine. No worries. But people are unsafe and dying on railroads. You can't let them strike. Insane. But that's what we're doing. Right? That's what we literally did.
What's the difference?
COVID lockdown, shut it all down. No one could go. But you might actually die in a chemical bomb. Keep going. Right? That's fine. So my point is the government should keep its hands off of these workers. And if they want to strike, let them strike. If they don't want to strike, don't strike. If they want to have multiple unions, let them. And my point is I think the worker co-op and or multiple unions should happen naturally, Jerome, as long as we don't stop it.
Okay.
Right? If the government doesn't protect most of these railroads, all government-run railroads like Amtrak don't make money. They lose money like there's no tomorrow. Pull the government out of it, they'll have to deal with it. They'll be insured on their own. All the government does is make sure you must be insured or you're getting hammered. And when it comes to insurance, the insurance is decided by the executive board. Since it's an executive board decision, you can literally charge the executive board directly, getting around the protection of the actual organization. They can only decide. A junior person can't decide who covers insurance for a railroad. Right? That insurance deal is a multi-million-dollar, maybe even $1 billion deal. So you're not going to have Bob in accounting sign that thing. He's not doing it, right? He's not. Someone senior is going to be doing that, right? So Jane in accounts payable is not signing that contract. So we have to make sure that, they're also responsible. I think if you encouraged it, you would find people doing it. In fact, once you do that, as long as they can gain insurance, you would find smaller railroad companies being able to pop up, right? Because right now, you can't create any competition because the regulations are too stifling. But our regulation is simple. Cover everything. If there's a mistake, you must pay for it. If you're a smaller railroad in a smaller area, the odds of you failing, the odds of you hurting people is going to be less. The actuaries will know that. They will charge you less for insurance. I'm just going to run a regional line. I'm just going Syracuse to Rochester. All I'm doing. That's my railroad, Syracuse to Rochester. Nothing else. That's going to be far cheaper in insurance than insuring the entire country. So now there's a chance for a local co-op railroad guy, people who don't want to be in a railroad anymore, quit and start their own railroad company, buy a couple of engines, and go back and forth.
So the problem
that could actually happen.
The problem is though, who owns the tracks then? Because who owns the tracks is all these big. It's not just the train that goes on the tracks, right? The people that own the trains own the tracks, and it's been that way ever since Vanderbilt and Rockefeller. The reason he made oil so cheap is because he bought the railroads. He's like, I got to have a way to ship this stuff. I'm getting killed on the shipment. I'm going to buy all the railroads. So from the get-go, it's been massive for hundreds of years, and it's hard. I think it's going to be hard to get back from that voluntarily. You know what I mean? Other than like doing an AT&T thing, a Bell Atlantic, where you break them up into. I don't know.
Again,
like sections.
I don't think you have to, right? And maybe and tell me if I'm foolish on this one here. If I bring the insurance companies in and allow them to insure whatever they're going to insure, and now 3, 4, 10 guys get together, 20 people who used to work in a railroad get together and go, we're going to start a new railroad. We're going from Rochester to Syracuse is what we're going to do. We need to lease the tracks, or however that works. I'm assuming you lease tracks is my assumption.
I would assume that whoever owns it, you would say, yeah, I got to run my train on these tracks.
Well, they couldn't say no because that'd be discrimination, right? If the tracks are supposedly public, they can't say no. They just have to charge them something. Well, now all of a sudden, if the insurance company sees a new market, hey, I can make a new market on insuring small regional railroads. I can grandfather the old guys at the same high price because they got to pay no matter what. They don't have a choice. And then I can also make money now on these regional ones. Wouldn't I, as an insurance company, pressure these guys into letting me have my secondary market?
You could incentivize. The insurance company would say, hey, I know we were killing you with these rates, but you know what you could do? You could help out by franchising these smaller operations or something, whatever, right? Like they'd give them a break on their rates for creating competitive behavior.
Absolutely.
That would work. We got to get back to the mechanism though, about getting it into law, right? Because is the insurance lobby going to think it's worth enough money to go through this nonsense? And B, yes. Even if it does think that, is it big enough to fight the railroad lobbyists and buy enough politicians to get the law through? Or does it need somebody else to work with it? In which case, what industry, who is that? Is it a bunch of tree huggers in California? What's that?
Where's the bundle? How do we bundle it with something else?
Yeah, right? Exactly. Who's the coalition that we put together?
It's a tough spot.
I got a second front to open up. Maybe we empower like communities or town-based organizations to kind of be vigilant over like, hey, there's a train track in our town, and it's kind of the lifeblood of the town. If you have some sort of local organization that kind of, hey, just check out the track, see if you see anything wonky, and send it up the chain to make sure that things don't get you could encourage that by saying, like, if you find something and they don't fix it, triple damages, right? You could do that, I think, as a state, and saying like you're incentivizing, be like, if someone notifies you that the track is wonky and there's a derailment because of that track, triple damages, and like a bonus to the person who calls it, like back to the bounty kind of system.
Yeah, doesn't
do I really want a bunch of people literally with sledgehammers breaking fucking tracks so they can get a cut?
It would only get a cut if there's
that's true.
Which means they'll really break it. That's what they'll do. They'll go outside, they'll break the tracks, call them and go, hey, there's a broken track over there. Oh, yeah, who did it? I don't know, some guy.
I don't know.
Just like me.
But then the same guy last week, though. I don't know who it is.
But then the railroad is incentivized to have, like, cameras along the railroad, be like, yeah, we know who does it.
Do you know how many miles there are of tracks?
We want more of a surveillance state, Eric.
Yeah,
well
this is horrible. This is horrible everywhere.
Going in the wrong direction.
I hate all of this.
Yeah. Yes.
Who's the coalition? Eric, I thought the road that Eric was going to go down, and this is what I was thinking originally, is like, can you incentivize, like he's saying, communities to throw into the pot, right? It would be the insurance companies, but then it would also be the Railroad Safety Association of America or whatever, and whatever town is, they would pay into it.
No, Craig, I tell you what you got to do, man. You got to find something that is completely not related. Not obviously related. Like I'm pulling this out of my ass right now. But let's say, for an example, there's a problem getting furniture out of Mexico into America via train. I totally made that up. I have no idea if that's true.
There probably is.
There is. There probably is. That's why I made it maybe. So you'd want to make it the Mexican furniture bill or something, right? That would actually, you see what I'm saying? It has to be something that you wouldn't know why they get together, because there's, if it's say the Mexican furniture bill, well, then all the retailers who sell furniture are going to be like, I'm on your side. I've been wanting furniture in my stores.
Mexican furniture for 36 years.
No, the best way to sneak this in is to put it in a defense bill.
Oh, yes.
Right? We have to support Ukraine by making sure that there's insurance on these railroads. I heard Vladimir Putin is responsible.
If everybody's dead, there won't be enough tax slaves to make enough money to send money to Zelensky.
Yes, we need to insure these railroads to protect them from the Putins.
That's true, yes.
The Putin.
If we don't do that, Putin wins.
All
That's
the
exactly
Putins.
right,
Well,
Eric.
What he was just indicted, right? Or like he's got charges against him.
Known
does.
criminal is sacrificing our railroads, and
So yeah, how are we gonna get him to the place without a train? So we got to get him to jail. We got to get Putin to jail on a train. So we got to make sure that happens. I love it. Yes.
Or even better,
you know what?
going deep in the well, maybe we put our nuclear weapons on railroads like the Soviets did back in the 80s, and then they'll have to be insured.
But no, you've just brought up a very valid point, Eric. Is there a way you could put it in that? Right? Is there a way you could say it's for national security? We have to have we have to make sure that we do this for national security. And then all the Democrats and Republicans vote for that. They'll put money at that in a
You
heartbeat.
can just sneak it in unrelated. You don't even have to justify it. There have been bridges and defense bills put in. So it's easier than you think.
I mean, technically, all infrastructure is part of the military. In the event if we were to mechanize for war, that requires all infrastructure towards mechanizing for war.
The problem with this, though, Eric, which I like where you're going with it, but my worry is, my worry is that if we go down that road, then the lobbyists will know, and the lobbyists will stop us. Right? They're not going to let us sneak it in, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah,
they're going to literally take
work.
millions of dollars and do a campaign on, Larry Sharp wants to kill your kids by doing this and that. They're gonna do that,
Mexican
right?
Furniture.
Don't call your congressman and say we don't want Mexican furniture or whatever the thing is, right?
Well, remember,
do that.
So you laugh, but do you remember that Wish.com thing where you could buy the giant? You could buy the thing. It was like a wardrobe or something for like $50,000 or something like that, or it was IKEA, and they said that was like a child, like you were buying a child, and it was a whole trafficking thing.
I don't remember that. No.
It was like a Pizzagate conspiracy. What I'm saying is like they already have. If we're gonna sneak it in, we can't use the Mexican furniture bill because they'll say we're trafficking children, like IKEA did with that wardrobe.
Oh, gotcha. All right, before we go on, let me do a little bit of admin, guys. If you're watching this and you're enjoying us talk about policy, then do me a favor, click that like button. Clearly, you have. I don't know why you like this, but I love it. So I'm glad you like it too. So some geeks do love this stuff. It's awesome. So please click that like button. It does matter. It's how we get past algorithms. It really is important. The second piece is if you are watching this on Twitter, retweet this. It does matter. If you can retweet it, please do so. That would be awesome. Also, if you want to get your question up front, you can super chat me if you're watching on Larry Sharp YouTube. It comes right to us. You pop it up right away if you want to do that also. So please, any of those things help. Also, finally, please support my sponsor, the world's smallest political quiz. Head over to theadvocates.org, theadvocates.org. Take one of the quizzes. It does matter. It helps us out tremendously. So I want to say thank you for all of that. All righty. So Kenneth, by the way, Craig says that was actually Wayfair.
Wayfair, yes. Yeah, it wasn't Wish, it was Wayfair. Yep. See, Kenneth knows. He's on top of it.
He knows. Absolutely. He was on top of it. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. So look, if you... So I guess you're all against the executive order idea, huh? That went down the tubes. So no executive order.
I'm all for Emperor Larry. Let's go.
No
Emperor of the universe. Yes.
Yep. Full speed.
But here's the issue. Remember, guys, we're building out policy, but we're not building a policy out for me. This is policy building out for any libertarian who wants to take it as they run.
Yeah.
So I know all of you trust me totally, right? And you think that I will be amazing as emperor. You're probably wrong. But I do appreciate that. I'm just worried about it not just being us, not just being me, it being some other, liberty-leaning candidate who wants to grab some of these policies. So maybe no executive order. I like the concept of it. It just seemed easiest.
Oh, why? Actually, I want to push back on that. I'm not seeing if that's an appropriate use of an executive order, why not use it appropriately? And if you want to limit the power, then that's the purpose of the legislature.
So my concern...
Craig's hardcore, though. Craig's hardcore libertarian. He heard executive order. He got mad.
Oh, yeah. There is some of that.
See, that's right. I wasn't joking. He got mad.
So it does. Yes, it's hard for me to swallow, first off. Second off, like that, we need to get a libertarian president elected and get him to sign an executive order to kill the railroad lobbies. Like, that's I feel like never going to happen. At least not.
No,
in the
I
next...
agree with you.
So I think it would be more expeditious if we could try to get it through the proper channels. And if you can get enough people, so the insurance companies, if they think they can make money off it, they'll want to do it. And then if you can find that rest of that coalition, whoever it is, if you can get enough lobbyists to gang up on the railroads, they want to make money. They want to beat up. They don't care who they beat up on. If it's going to make them money, they're going to try to push it. And then they're fighting for it. And it becomes easier because you don't have to do all the work.
But let me jump on Jerome's side for a moment here, because I get what he's saying. Just because we say it's an executive order, if we walk down that road, maybe we shouldn't. I'm not sold on this should be an executive order or not. But if we walk down the executive order path, Craig, we don't have to have a libertarian president to make that happen. We could have some president who wants to pick up a liberty cause because they're hurting in the polls and they want to solve something. And there's no way of solving it. But, this thing, the libertarians said, we'll grab this thing and we'll sound old liberty for like a year or something like that. So literally another president could take it if they thought so. It does happen sometimes. Or something else. They bring on a libertarian as a policy wonk in their cabinet, and then that cabinet member pushes the president to do so. Or we get a libertarian congressman elected, which is much more higher chance, right? And that congressman starts lobbying for this, gaining the ear of the public and or the ear of the president. So I think there are other ways. Clearly, I'd rather have a libertarian president, but I think there are other ways of this still working.
Yeah, I maybe I'm too concerned about the mechanism and not enough about the meat of it. But it's hard to tell where to start with it because there's, like you said, it's so incest. So we have to fight the incest with the incest somehow.
Yeah, and I think the easiest thing is to do the executive order type route, right? The harder point is to really engage a new way of thinking. Like, what is the incentive for these folks to, one, lease a railroad track and then upgrade the actual railroads, right? So they can put new trains on them, faster trains, which will then get customers, and then, it would benefit everyone. So I think that's the hardest part.
Wilson just made me think of something. Like, he said faster trains. Remember when we were going to have a Hyperloop? Remember when Obama was going to make trains cool again? Remember that 20 years ago?
There's that project in California that I think is still in the infancy stage.
Yeah, it's still in the same stage as it was 20 years ago.
That's a big infrastructure bill. Where's
Pete Buttigieg is on maternity leave. Don't talk about infrastructure.
Same reason. And the reason is government regulation is involved.
Yes. Yeah. So
even
how do
if
we break
change that, we said, you want to build a Hyperloop? Awesome. Something goes wrong, your insurance company must pay for everything. Build your Hyperloop. Something goes wrong, the insurance company must pay for everything. Which means now who is inspecting? The people who are inspecting are the insurance company, not bureaucrats. The bureaucrat's job is to say no. There is no reason for a bureaucrat to ever say yes. If something goes wrong, they're in trouble. Now, a business person has to say yes because if that company is not making money, they can't pay premiums. So they do have a reason to say yes, but they also have a backstop. If they screw up, they're paying billions of dollars. And senior executives are not protected by the EPA under this plan. Under this plan, the EPA protects senior executives, so they don't care, right? But under my plan that we're talking about today, they're not protected, so they have to worry about that. Go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this made me think about, you already have a deal with this with the MTA, right? With Amazon or Google or whoever buying the tracks or whatever, well, leasing the tracks, right? And then they have to go in and fix it down in the city, right? That's your plan for free.
Oh, for the MTA. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So why can't you
hold on, but there's a reason why, right? If you're listening or watching, one of the ways I wanted to fix the MTA was to allow freight to come into New York City. Right now, freight doesn't come into New York City, right? Via train. To allow freight to come into New York City. The value of this, of course, is severalfold. Number one, less trucks on the road, less trucks in New York City, less wear and tear on the roads and the bridges, right? Number one. Also cheaper and faster to get products and services into the city via train versus via, massive trucks and such, right? But the reason why they do it, Craig, is because the system right now can't take freight trains. So there's no choice. If they agree to it, they must replace the tracks. The current tracks are only for passenger trains. So they physically must do so. So that would be part of their deal to do it. But now if I'm just doing it for, whatever the train now, what would be the incentive for the old railroad companies who don't have the new cars and the new locomotives and all those things to change all the tracks?
You don't do it for the railroad companies. It's like your Google Road idea with interstate, with I-80 from Syracuse to Watertown. Same idea. You do a parallel track. Jeff Bezos gets to put in the Amazon Hyperloop, and he does whatever. And Amtrak sucks. So now everybody takes the Jeff Bezos Hyperloop, and now everybody says, "Wait a minute, why do we have 200-year-old technology and it takes us 5 hours to get from Chicago to New York? That's ridiculous. That's nonsense." So I feel like the same mechanisms that you were going to use for your Google Road or for it's all transportation, it's all right of ways, it's all the same thing.
But there's an exception here. Let me grab a quick super chat real fast. Secular Sakai wants to go totally off track and do Mises shit, which makes everything bad. Thank you, Secular Sakai. But I said I would do it if you did a super chat, so you did. Thanks for 199. I appreciate it. So yes, my thoughts on the Mises Caucus. I'll give you two thoughts. Number one, for the purposes of this, nothing. We're just building policy, and they can take the policy as much as anyone else can, whether you're libertarian or not, whether you're Mises or not. As far as the LP goes, the Mises Caucus, for those who are going to be upset when I'm saying, I'll say it anyway. They are a symptom of our failures. Our national party was ripe for the taking because we've been failing for so long. The Mises Caucus was the right people at the right time who took over. That's what happened. And some people who don't like the Mises Caucus are angry about that. Okay, like the Mises Caucus, congratulations, well done. Either way, the Mises Caucus is in charge now. If you don't like it, I get it, I understand. But this is still, the LP National is still the best, without question, the best and sometimes the only vehicle for us to make change in this country. Nothing else is even close right now. No, the party can come close, but the movement can come close. Even with all the failures and the problems that we've had, and we've had lots of them. I was part of failures last year. We've been part of failures and successes. Absolutely. We are still the best that there is out there. 100% the best there's out there. So if you like the Mises Caucus, well done. Congratulations. You're doing well. I hope we keep going. If we don't like the Mises Caucus, I understand. This is still the best place to be. Stay and help. And if you want to beat the Mises Caucus, organize well and beat the Mises Caucus or join them. It doesn't matter. Either way, it is still the best that we have. Does anybody else want to make any comments on the caucus? Feel free if anybody wants to.
I started out. So this is my opinion. This is my message to any Libertarian Party people on state or national level. I came in because of Larry back. I registered as a Libertarian. Larry ran for governor in my state. I said, this guy knows what he's talking about. I came in, I was all gung-ho. I was ready to do the state stuff. I wanted to get as involved as possible in the Libertarian Party as quick as possible. I thought it was the way to go. And then I saw everybody fight everybody and absolutely achieve nothing whatsoever on the front end. There was all sorts of back end nonsense. And I said, this is a waste of my time. So now I don't do a lot with the state or the national party. I like them. I think they're great. It's not my place. I'm saying there's 500 more just like me that feel like it's not my place. I can't get anything done. I think we pay too much attention to internal conflicts, not enough attention to the big picture. Maybe that's because we draw a lot of narcissistic individuals and people who care about me, which is kind of what libertarianism is. But I think we need to focus a little bit bigger on because we have two other parties that want to screw us. So why do we want to screw us?
I agree. And in case anyone doesn't know, I have Mises people in my team, non-Mises people in my team, anti-Mises people in my team. I don't care. You are welcome. If you want to step up and do something, I'm in. That's what I want. come do something. I don't care what caucus you're in. I don't care if you love Mises, hate Mises, does not matter whatsoever. They're doing trainings, by the way, and I'll pump this now. The Mises caucus is actually running trainings here in New York City, April 1st and 2nd. I'm running Sunday's training. So if you want to learn how to run like a libertarian, if you want to learn how to run for office, show up in New York City, April 2nd, come on in. Happy to have you. I will train you. I don't care what caucus you're in. I will train you either way. So thank you for the 199. I appreciate it. If anybody else wants their stuff pushed to the front, with super chat, I'm happy to take care of it. So
I'll answer any super chats too that anyone wants to send.
There we go. We'll all answer them. All good. So sorry, I had to do a little bit of admin there, guys. So I guess where we are with this piece, though, Craig, is when I was making those policies, it was only state. If you remember the interstate that we were talking about in I-81, I was saying I was prepared to lose federal funds for this, right? So at a state level, I can simply say, I'm not doing what you want to do on your interstate 81 federal government. And if you want to, and the only way the federal government can punish me is by not giving me money to fix the road. But the rent for the Google road that was next to it was repairing of I-81. So I was covering my repair costs through the rental from Google. Therefore, I can ignore the federal government, say, I don't care, I don't want your money. So that would work in that case. How does that work when it comes to rail lines?
So, right from the get-go, when we got railroads with Abe Lincoln, he was a railroad lawyer, by the way, before he was president. So railroads have been in bed with the top of the government from the start.
Sure, of course.
So what I'm saying is it's all right away, right? Because they had to seize these corridors through eminent domain or whatever. And so either the feds or the state is responsible for these rail corridors. Now, if it's the state that's responsible for these rail corridors, the state could say, screw your federal nonsense, stupid Amtrak. I've got Jeff Bezos that's going to build me a Hyperloop. And it's the same thing with I-81, except we don't fix the federal nonsense. We have the cool Jeff Bezos thing running right next to it. I don't need your track at all. It's garbage. So now they have to compete, or it just goes away, which we wanted to in the first place.
Okay, let me keep going down this road here, right? I'm giving you pushback. I like the concept, but I'm giving you more pushback because you're basing it off the one idea that I had for I-81, which I like. The advantage of the I-81 is there was already a wide corridor, right, in I-81. So there was space, physical space to put the Google road there.
Yep.
Railroads don't always have that kind of space. Are we now eminent domaining? Which I'm going to be mad if you're going to say yes on that one, Craig. Are we now eminent domaining to get more space to put Jeff Bezos' road?
Do the railroads have air rights?
Ooh, that's I don't know. You're right. We could do that, couldn't we?
I think air rights is a communist New York City thing. So unless the railroad runs through New York City.
Yeah, but if we can use the commies to get us some good capitalist stuff, let's use it. I'm not against that.
Did you know
capitalism is a commie word anyway?
So a note on air rights. You know how we have the National Register of Historic Places that's supposed to save historic places, and it's a government, it's another government boot. That came about because of air rights. Penn Station could not afford to pay the air rights on the station anymore. So they said, we're going to bulldoze it and build Madison Square Garden, and we'll make a buttload of money that way. So we won't have to worry about the air rights. And then everyone said, oh my God, they bulldozed Penn Station. We need the government to save historic buildings, when it was the government that made them want to bulldoze it in the first place. But yeah, you might be able to build it over the railroad. If you own the right of way, I feel like you can do what you want on that. You're the state. I
like Eric's idea here. I mean, the concept of doing that is several-fold that I like. Number one, you don't have to get rid of the rail. You don't have to get rid of the rail. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Right? So you don't have to get rid of it if you don't want to. But the second piece is, and it's going to sound dumb, but it is important. It's pretty cool. And that means people will want to do it. A Hyperloop in the air? Come on, that's super cool. That's like my That's my oh my god, my idea for the Erie Canal.
I was just gonna say you could even build it over the canal if you wanted to. Like you can, that whole corridor, that whole I-90 Erie Canal / railroad corridor through the middle of the state. That thing's wide as hell, except where it narrows to go into the cities.
But Craig, we're trying to come up with a national policy, though, right? You're right. In New York State, that's crystal clear. I'm talking about you cross the country, and there aren't always those wide corridors for rails, right? Depends upon where you are and what part of the country, city versus rural. But with Eric's idea, that covers it all. Doesn't matter where you are.
The only issue I have, right, is that the feds are still responsible if you're doing and this is the whole issue with the intrastate nonsense, right? Is that you have to fight the feds. This is why I thought if you could do it as a pilot program in one state or multiple states, say, hey, it works here. The other states would be like, oh, wait a minute, how did you do that? Like, I'd really like to do that. And now you have. Yes, you don't have one massive system with the federal government controlling everything, but even the federal highway system went over existing roads that were built in the states. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is piecemeal.
But the federal highway system was all about eminent domain.
Yes.
Right? It was all about it. Let's not repeat that.
I'm not trying to repeat it. I'm saying in a lot of places, they didn't even build a new federal highway. They just paved over what was already there. Those routes already existed. So what I'm saying is if you piecemeal it state by state, now the feds have a reason to play by your game. Jeff Bezos already has a Hyperloop in New York. He's already got one in Chicago. He's already got, you know what I mean? So now
maybe there's two separate policies, Craig. Maybe there's a state policy plan, which is more of a bottom up, where states try to do it on their own and hope other states join the party. And then by default, the federal government has to do it unless they physically crack down or begin to punish, which they might. But I mean, the odds are less because then there's disruption and then people get mad because they can't, get in the railroad. Or we have a national policy, a federal policy that will maybe encourage people to do the air rights. Maybe I can see both sides of this.
And I could throw in another because Elon Musk has the Boring Company that likes to do tunnels, so we go under.
We could go under.
Yeah,
under
and
seems to always. I keep every time I think about under, I always think about the Boston's Big Dig. That literally was supposed to be like 2 years, took like 20. Right? So that scares me every time.
Well, the Boring Company is also that because Elon Musk was going to have his Boring Company bore a hole through Los Angeles or wherever it was like 10 years ago, and it's still only like a mile of it made or something like that.
Yeah, but man,
if it's on him, it's on him, right?
No, you're right. If it's not a government contract, why do I care? Yeah. You're exactly right. If it's not a government contract, why do I care? If it's private companies trying to make money off each other, good luck, right? Why do I care? It's not taxes now, so why do we care?
Could you get Walmart involved? So freight is a problem, right?
Walmart.
The reason that we have these lines is so that you're like, Walmart, what the hell are you talking about? The whole point.
I knew you're going somewhere with this. I'm fine. Go ahead.
Well,
keep going.
You're like, I hope you get there because I'm confused. No. So stuff comes from China, right? And then it comes into the port in New York City. It gets put on a train and then it goes. So my point is, if you can get it's all a shipping cost. It's all a shipping cost. So
to be forward, Craig, most of it comes in through Long Beach, California. And it doesn't come on trains. Most of it actually goes on trucks.
Yeah, it's all on trucks now, which is another issue, right?
Another problem. Agreed.
Yeah. So rail is more efficient. Rail is more efficient up until the last few miles, right? And then that's where you got to have the trucks. So we built an inefficient system because we've put regulations and we put all these things and trucking and trains and the Jones, all of it, right? It's all a mess. So what I'm saying is, if you could vertically, because there's also the vertical integration stuff, right? Where you're not allowed to own things like because of the oil, because
in theory.
Right. Well, right. In theory. So exactly though. So could we use it for good? Right? Could we allow somebody to vertically integrate? Because I don't have a problem with vertical integration. You know what I mean? Jeff Bezos owns everything now, and they don't care about Amazon. They let him do whatever the hell he wants. And like, I love Kindle. I buy everything from Amazon. So vertical integration is not necessarily a bad thing. Is there a way that you can get the people that are needing the goods that come on the train, or the people that come on the train? Can you get them involved somehow so that they can lower their costs by being involved in the getting of the thing?
How many Walmarts are along the Erie Canal? Got to be a dozen, right?
Good question. I like that.
I can think of 3 right now in my short area.
Yeah, there's probably
there's one in Amsterdam, there's one in Herkimer, and there's one in Utica. So
think of how quick that shipping would be if it's just going like, oh, we got a quick route across New York State to dump, huge pallets onto, hey, here.
Just hope the homeless people that live in those parts of town don't get to the pallets before, the work come down and get it. Like, I just hope they don't.
You pay them a service fee.
Yes, you can get the homeless to unload the pallets.
I like that. Yes, I love that.
You don't even have to let them unload the pallets. Just like keep an eye on it.
Hey, Dennis. No. But I get where you're going with all this. Maybe we should table. I think we've hit a spot. Why don't we table this for now? Let me put this to the side for now.
It's because Dennis came in, isn't it? You didn't want to talk to Dennis about this.
I'm going to derail whatever policy ideas you figured out.
Derail. He did that on purpose. We're talking about trains.
So I don't want him trashing anything. So yeah, let's move on. Let's Craig, can you type that up for us and get an email out to us on that one?
Yeah, I think I have a general idea of how that all went.
Okay. So we'll work on that one next time. I think we hit a wall, but I think the concept's still a good concept. The question is, do we make a separate local state law or state policy and or federal policy? Second, is this something that we want to go via executive order, or is this something we want to change actual laws, regulations through legislature? Which one do we want to do? And I think the last piece is, how do we match this with something else like the farm bill, right? Do we do that, or do we just do it as a separate piece? And how do we get insurance lobbyists to get on our side, right, against the rail lobbyists? And then can we, to Jerome's point, can we get the workers to see the value in this, that they would actually have more power? They would be able to strike if they wanted to strike. They'd be able to create their own unions or co-ops, right? Or even go off and work on their own to have more competition. They'd be able to even do this. How do we get them involved in this piece also? I think that's, if we could nail most of that down, I think would be okay. Does that make sense?
If we put it on the web, then everybody will tell us how wrong we are, and we can fix it from there.
I think we definitely,
or not just that, if
than any other party.
Well, something else. If some candidates pick it up and start talking about it, then as they talk about it, the press, if they care, they want to beat. Those will make some candidate look bad. They'll dig into it, beat the candidate up, and we'll learn from the candidate getting beat up. Right? As the candidate gets beat up, they pick this up. We'll learn from when they get beat up. Oh, right. That he should have said this. She should have said that. We have to figure this out. All those things. So I do think we would learn that way. If that makes any sense. Dave brings up the idea. Technically, railroad tracks are private property, so they can put security cameras on it. Yeah, but we don't want them to, Dave. But yes, you are correct. They can, but I don't want more of a surveillance state. So yes, thank you for that. I agree, but I'd like to have less of a security state if I could. So we brought that one up. I kind of want to. Secular has another super chat. Hold on. Secular Sakai says, do you think that proportional ranked choice voting, if implemented correctly, could lead to a healthier multi-party system in America and LP reps in Congress, like the ACT Party Libertarians in New Zealand? 100% yes, it can. No doubt. And what's my example of this? The LP currently uses ranked choice voting. And if you can't gain a majority, usually on the first ballot, or maybe second ballot at the least, whoever's everyone's second choice, they win. That's how it tends to work. So what does that mean? Let's go to 2016. Who was everyone's second choice? Gary Johnson. So in any given state where they couldn't get a clear majority off the bat, if there was a third party, you can get a clear majority, Gary Johnson wins that state. Because if the Democrat or Republican couldn't get the max, whatever that was, all of their votes would then go to their second choice, which in almost everybody's was Gary Johnson. He was everyone's second choice, right? If you're a Democrat, you don't want a Republican to win. So you pick your Democrat as first, you pick Gary Johnson as second. If you're a Republican, you want a Democrat to win. You pick your Republican first, Gary Johnson second. If either one has 50%, all those votes go to the second person, Gary Johnson. So Gary Johnson would have won some electoral votes in 2016. Who knows how many, but he would have won some. If he would have won any electoral votes in 2016, that would have changed the game for 2018, 2020, ongoing, because there would have been at least one, if not multiple, gold states in 2016. I don't think Gary Johnson would have been the president. I don't think he would have won the presidency. I don't believe that. But I think he would have won at least a couple of states. One to be, to perfect example, probably would have been Mexico, and also probably Utah. He probably would have won both of those states. So he would have won at least 2 states. Not a bad deal if that was the case. So I think overall, yes, ranked choice voting can make a third party realistic, which will make more impact in the country. Anybody else want to touch that question?
Well, I think in New York, the ranked choice is only in the party, right? It's not ranked choice in the general. So it's essentially useless. It's just like, you know, I mean, it helps filter out which Democrat you prefer, I guess.
Correct.
But beyond that, it doesn't give any opportunities to anything else.
Well, what it did in the Democratic primary in New York State is the Democratic primary wasn't as vitriolic. It was the vitriolic because it always is, but it was less vitriolic because there were some people who were trying to do a coalition building piece. So it was less vitriolic than usual. So
I just feel it was designed to keep a de Blasio out of gaining. Yeah,
that's true, not a bad thing, Eric.
No, no argument here.
That is true, Larry. I don't think I've ever either I've missed it if you talked about it, or this is the first time bringing it up. But if I have a chance of being somebody's second choice, now I'm not going to shit on that person's first choice.
Exactly right.
So
yes.
So I hadn't even thought of that, but that's amazing, because now I'm not going to try to piss off everybody. I'm going to try to look nice and try to be friendly to everybody, because even if I'm not their first choice, I could be their second one.
And that's the point, right? Gary Johnson wasn't calling everybody else in the game evil and nasty. He wasn't saying everyone else is evil. He was just going, we're the right guys. We're the good guys. When Trump and Hillary were destroying each other. So if you liked Trump, you hated Hillary. If you liked Hillary, you hated Trump. You were never going to vote for the opposite. You'd vote for Gary Johnson, though, because whatevs. He's not them. That's exactly your point.
Yeah, and both sides would be content with Gary Johnson. Be like, yeah, at least it's not Trump, or
that's exactly right. Yes.
We dodged a bullet. Thank God for Gary Johnson.
That's exactly what would happen. Yes. Right. If you love Trump and hated Hillary and you got Gary Johnson, you still wanted Trump, but the world's not going to end in your eyes. You didn't get Hillary Clinton, right? If you liked Hillary Clinton, you didn't get Trump. You got Gary Johnson, you didn't get Trump, so the world's not going to end. So yes, we went long on this one, Secular Scott. By the way, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. I hope that answered your question at least. So I want to move on if I could, though. I want to move on to the banks. Everybody was worried about the banks. And this is exactly the same in one regard as the railroads. It's another heavily regulated industry where the regulators don't show up and they're in bed with the government. It's exactly the same in that regard. And nothing's going to change, and they still aren't changing. And I'm going to give you the same answer I gave you last time. Simplification. The same thing I said last time, I'm going to say again. And I think the answer to this, dealing with this banking, is going back to one regulation, which we got rid of, and that's the Glass-Steagall Act. For some of you know what the Glass-Steagall Act, Bill Clinton ended it in 1999, I think. 1999 when Bill Clinton ended it. The Glass-Steagall Act simply said a very simple regulation. you are either a savings and loan or an investment bank. You pick one or the other, right? You do what you want, but you're one or the other. You can't be both. Once that went away, they became both. And what most people who are older didn't understand was if you got your life insurance or your car loan or your mortgage, you got it from a savings and loan. You didn't get it from an investment bank. It was a safe bet. Savings and loans rarely had massive crises. They did sometimes, but rarely compared to investment banks because they weren't doing risky things. They were basically, just taking in cash and giving out loans. So you were fine. One of the reasons why we had the crash 2008 is the average person didn't know that once Glass-Steagall went away, your life insurance is now in the market. Your mortgage is now wrapped in the derivatives and in the market. Prior to 1989, that was against the law. You couldn't do that. Your mortgage was your mortgage in the savings and loans, and investment bankers did investment things and gambled. Now we're gambling our life insurance and our houses around. It's a whole different world. I think we go back to a very simple law. You're one or the other. And none of you will think I'm right.
I got a little delay there.
Was there a delay?
I'll start to derail it.
We lost the last.
Yeah, go ahead.
We lost the last part of you, Larry. The last wrap up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. The wrap up is if you're only one or the other, then the savings and loans keeps your mortgage and keeps your life insurance in that bank, and your investment bankers invest what they want in the investment bank.
Yeah, I think diversification. Everyone says diversification, right? Is they when you go to put your portfolio together, they're like, you got to diversify, not all your eggs in one basket. Like, but we literally only have one basket now, and it's the Fed, because they have the chickens and they ring all the eggs into the basket, and the chickens die, and somehow they still ring the eggs into the basket.
And you said you're going to derail it, Dennis. Go ahead, derail.
Yeah, I just want to push back a little bit.
Please.
I feel like if we're real libertarians, we want to give people a choice. And what that means is we don't necessarily want to make laws that say you must operate in one way or the other as a bank. Instead, what you always refer to as transparency. So what I'd love to see is just more transparency in banking. When you go and you sign up for your bank account, it should be very simple, where the paperwork says very clearly, this is the kind of investments that we do, and these are the kinds of investments we don't do. And that's it. This is akin to the privacy policies that we all scroll through when we land on social media sites and websites, and we just scroll to the bottom. We don't read anything, and we click a button to accept without knowing what's in there. So simplifying this verbiage so that people know what they're getting into and they understand the risks. They're adults. They can make their own decisions. That's my opinion.
How do you do that?
I see where you're going. My worry, though, with this, Dennis, is I have three worries on this. Number one, there is a cultural issue that I feel supersedes this. Literally for decades, grandma and grandpa couldn't imagine a mortgage being an investment bank. They would never think that's a thing. In fact, most people to this day, if you ask 10 people on the street, do you know your mortgage is in the right now in the stock market right now? They'd be like, no, it isn't. My mortgage is with so-and-so bank. They don't believe it. They think it's not true. They can't imagine it. You know, your life insurance.
And they lived through 2008.
And they lived through it, correct? And yes, you know, your life insurance is in the market right now, being gambled in the market by bankers. Right now, your life insurance is there. Now, some people, to your point, Dennis, are fine with that. And that means if you're an investment bank, if you still want to sell life insurance or mortgages, you may, but you're an investment bank. So that means you're saying, I don't mind. Throw my mortgage into the market. I'm good with that. But the average American does not want their mortgage and life insurance in the market at all. And they don't understand it. Even if you were transparent, the average American wouldn't get it. Most people don't get it. That's my worry. Culturally, I feel like this will be unfair to at least 70% of the American population. And I'm not saying you can't operate the way you want. I'm not saying that. So I'm sorry, I hit that by mistake. I apologize, guys. I'm not saying that that I'm telling them how to operate. I'm telling them pick a lane, right? Pick a lane and label yourself clearly.
Which
you
is
are
the same
this
thing. It's the transparency.
It is, but there is some limitations in it, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's cultural, is what I'm saying. There are some limitations, but it's the same thing as saying, at what point are you a van versus are you a car? You can have a van, you can have a car.
Well,
at one point we say it's a
take
van.
that example.
One point we say it's a car.
Yeah, you know where I'm about to go here too. I think
Go.
the government tells us how we need to label people.
I was just
Because
going to
we're
say
not-
that.
Yeah, are you a van or are you a car? The government.
Yeah, there's a
dictates
metaphor
that.
there. What if
Yeah.
I want to be both at
It's
any
a
time
weird
of the day?
choice.
Well, yeah, if we force all investment banks to rename themselves like investment institution, then a lot of mom and pops won't be like, I'm not getting my mortgage from an investment institution. That's scary. I will go to my bank. So if you just rename it, you solve the problem too.
That's my issue. That's why I do think labeling in this case may not be a bad idea. I'm with you, Dennis. I'm not saying you're wrong in what you're saying theoretically and libertarian. I'm trying to be realistic.
I think renaming things would probably be easier to accomplish than a new Glass-Steagall. You'd be like, no, we're not doing Glass-Steagall. We're just saying you have to call yourself something else.
If you do X, you must label yourself as Y.
Yeah.
Or you may not do X.
Yeah, and then they'll be begging for Glass-Steagall.
So the issue,
right? They'll be begging for it. Then.
They'll be like, no, it's like we rely on all these chumps throwing in their life savings and us holding on to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my point. And it's still happening now. Right. And this is my issue, Dennis. And again, I want to say clearly, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you theoretically. But already now you're seeing we have big banks, their losses are socialized and their gains are privatized. Well, no, the way it used to be, all of that shit was privatized, which is fine. You make a lot of money, good for you. You lose all your money, good for you, bad for you, whatever. But and no one's house was going away because of that. Now, literally, old people are going back to work because their life insurance is worth zero. Right? And they want to have some cash to get back.
If we made this rule, knowing how banks operate, knowing how much money they have behind their legal teams and all of that,
yep.
How likely do you think it is that they'll follow the rule versus finding a loophole?
That's where I was going to go with it. This
is why it's got to be simple.
Well, the problem, I even if it's simple, they're the same garbage people doing this. It doesn't matter it's the same assholes. And
for the record, I have to stop everything for a second. I have bankers as clients. Bankers, you're wonderful people. Continue.
Okay, now that Dennis got his aside, I'm going to say no, I'm not going to attack individual bankers, especially if they're clients of Dennis's. I'm sure you're nice people. Yes. I'm saying the system as a whole is full of people who are not accountable to anybody, whatever, no matter what the rules are. So I feel like you have to, rules are nice. That's cool. That's fun. But the system is the issue, because they can follow whatever rules they want. And when they don't, the Fed comes in and says, here's $1 billion.
But here's the issue, Greg, and here's what I'm going to try to see if this works, because I think it worked decently in the 80s and 90s. Not great, but better. Bankers went to jail in the 80s and 90s. That actually happened.
Yes.
Prior to Glass-Steagall, yes, they went to jail. Why? Because it was a simple law to prosecute. There weren't regulations. It was, did you do the thing? Did you not? You did it. And now guys like Rudy Giuliani can make their name on hunting down bankers, which is what they want to do, which is why I like, if it's simple and it's just, did you invest these mortgages into the market? I did. Did you label yourself as investment bank? I did not. Off to jail you go. That's it. Done. There's no regulations. There's no issue. It's a simple rule regulation. Were you transparent? Did you tell grandma that you were putting her life insurance she was planning to give to her kids in the market and gambling away? I did. Did you warn her? I did not. Off to jail you go.
So who is responsible for getting them into the court, right? Who's going after these people? and then who is prosecuting them and throwing them in jail? And are there any of those people in the system currently? Because right now I feel like that they don't care. I feel like the people that are responsible. So you've got your mechanism, right? You've got the simple law that if they break it, now you have a way to throw them into jail. Who are the people doing it? Are there anybody that wants to do that? I feel like there's nobody that wants to do that.
Okay, they don't want to do it because of regulation. And let me be clear on why. If you have a detailed regulatory system, that regulatory system has to constantly be updated, shifted, changed. Who does that? The Congress does. So I have to keep bribing congressmen so they'll listen to my lobbyist to change the regulations. Therefore, why would a congressman want to make me angry or put me in jail when literally you're writing me checks for thousands of dollars every year? Your lobbyists are filling my PACs with cash. I would never want you to do that, right? I'm going to keep you around forever. But if the regulations are simple and there is no change, here's the regulation. There's no change in the regulation. That's it. Now, the rest is, insurances, as always insurance, right? Whatever. To Eric's point, you could even have your own insurance, right? Banks and credit unions could have their own insurance. And many credit unions do, right? If you have a credit union, and particularly if you're local, you're probably not supported by the FDIC, which is federal. So you have to have your own insurance. So you find your own insurance for that. So I feel like if there's no incentive to change the regulations every 2 years, there's no reason for me as a lobbyist to write the checks. Therefore, I have no power over the congressman. But not just that. Prosecutors want to make their names on these things. And as long as there is no Congress or mayor or governor saying, back off, DA, back off, prosecutor, all they want to do is hammer these guys. You tell me any prosecutor doesn't want to put a big banker in jail? That's going to they're going to be on TV.
They don't care who they put in jail.
They don't care who they put in jail. They want to put everybody in jail.
Yeah,
As long as they can become popular, they don't care. What stops them? Some governor, some mayor is saying back off. Some Congress saying back off. That's my client. That guy gives me cash. Back off.
How do you get Congress is captured right now by all those lobbyists writing checks. 100%. How do you get Congress away from all those evil worm tongue lobbyists and make your Dodd-Frank regulation, and then make sure that those worm tongue lobbyists don't come back into their ears and decide that it's time to rewrite the laws every 2 years again?
I think the only way you make this happen, believe it or not, and Eric, you tell me if you think I'm wrong, this is kind of your world, is you have to bring in trial lawyers. They are the ones who can make cash on this.
Yeah, showing liability tends to motivate insurance companies. Or you could just make all elected officials, devalue themselves, get a burlap robe, and walk the earth like David Banner. That'd be the ideal situation.
You could do that. That's another option.
Yeah, they have no incentive.
But that's true, but I think I might go with the trial lawyers. But your option also would work.
Both solutions are valid.
Correct, absolutely. But you see my point, Craig? That one of the reasons why we have almost no tort reform is because the trial lawyers are super powerful, super wealthy, and are able to throw everybody into court whenever they want to, which is why they run this country, right? So that's why there's no tort reform, or not any real tort reform. If they were on our side, I think they could beat almost any other lobby.
So how do you get them on our side?
Craig, you're going to law school.
Well, we're gonna have to get him to shave his beard first.
No.
I know there must have been a famous lawyer with a beard. There's got to be at least one.
Oh, at least one, yeah.
Yeah, Abe Lincoln.
There we go. The best lawyer. I mean,
he's shaving when he was lawyering.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think he grew it out when he was president.
He so the story I heard, I don't know how true it is. I think he was even in office at the time. Like, he didn't have the beard, but then some young girl, like a 6-year-old girl or something, wrote him a letter that said she liked his whiskers at one point that he had, and
you might want to stop the conversation right here, Craig.
Yeah,
I didn't make it that, Dennis. All I was saying is there was a nice girl that wrote him a nice letter that said, "Hey, yeah, I don't know why you guys are making this weird. It's like a nice little story.
You made it weird. You said a 6-year-old girl wanted to touch his whiskers or some shit.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
That wasn't me.
I
In
said,
1860, that wasn't as weird as it is today.
I guess that's true. 1860, maybe that's a thing.
We've
I
had
don't
so
know.
many horrible people do things.
He was campaigning, and I'm done. Whatever. You ruined the story. I don't want to tell it anymore.
You literally just made Lincoln a furry. I can't believe you did that shit. Terrible. You're a bad person, Greg.
You can't prove to me that he wasn't.
That's true. Absolutely. Then we got one more super chat,
let me
guys.
ask.
Secular comes up. He says, any concerns about social policies taking a conservative turn or backseat focus within the LP and heavier emphasis only on economic issues with rising pale libertarian influence? I don't think so, to be forward. I think that you can't, even though I often want to, you can't get around culture war. I wish we could. I wish we could just get rid of culture war and just work on things that affects everybody's lives more, like economics, things like that, people getting education, all those things. I don't think we can avoid it. I don't think the LP is avoiding it at all. I don't think they are, at least. The candidates that I deal with and talk to do deal with culture war issues. I actually don't care what LP National does. I care what the candidates do. The candidates are our actual representation of the party. If they are handling culture war issues effectively, I'm good. I deal with culture war stuff too. I don't like it, but I don't shy away from culture war issues. I talk about it. I talk about race, talk about gender. I talk about all the things. So I think it's the candidates, Secular. It's the candidates. If candidates fall away, then you will be right. I don't think they will because the media doesn't allow them to. The media pushes culture war. When I was running for governor of New York, people asked me abortion questions. Now, for those who don't live in New York, that's not a question to ask in New York. Abortion's codified in New York State. It's never going away. It's not an issue at all. There is literally no reason to ask a governor candidate about the abortion issue. It's irrelevant. But they did. It's a culture war issue. And I answered it. So I think you do have to deal with culture war issues, whether or not they have value or not. Does anybody else want to touch that?
Just on the abortion piece, the national news media hypnotizes everybody and gets them distracted on and changes. It's the memory hole thing. It's what Orwell was talking about. The abortion issue, Obama promised not to make that an abortion or not to make that a thing anymore. He's like, if you elect me, his first term promise was, I'm going to codify Roe v. Wade. It's never going to be a thing again. You'll never have. And then he got to a second term and he said, yeah, not really a big deal for me. So that's all on YouTube. You can go and watch it. I was passing out flyers for Larry this time around, and I met this 75-year-old Democrat, and he wanted to do culture war stuff with me too. And he talked about abortion.
Yes.
I'm like, did you know that's Obama's fault? Because that was right after Roe v. Wade was repealed. And he's like, oh, those Republicans are garbage. I'm like, did you know it was Obama's fault? And he's like, no. And I told him, and he's like, I don't believe that. I'm like, you can look it up on YouTube. And so people, they don't have a memory, and they just watch whatever is on their television screen. And that's the thing that they repeat, and then they forget.
Well, Joel comes up with a good point. Joel says abortion topics too politically valuable to settle. He's right.
Just like immigration, just like now trans rights and all that stuff. I think that's just another wedge issue that you're never going to see go away. Because DeSantis is quadrupling down on that. They're all wedge issues, and they're all designed to keep you distracted.
So I guess I'll wrap it up with saying, I don't think it'll matter as long as candidates are still talking about it. I think most candidates cannot avoid it. If I could avoid culture issues, I would never talk about culture war. If I could avoid it, I cannot avoid it. Right. So I have to deal with it. And I think most candidates do. And when I'm coaching candidates, and I coach many candidates, I talk about exactly that. How do you handle the culture war issues in your area? Because depending on where you are, you have to change how you speak, the words you use, all those things to make sure you're not turning people off and they're still hearing you, whatever your answer is for the culture issue. Then for those of you who don't get this, very often people will ask you culture war issues to decide if they're going to listen to you about anything else. If you answer wrongly on the culture issue, they shut you out. They're like, you're not me. You're one of them. I don't care what your policies are. I can't hear you. You don't have to be on their side in the culture war. You have to not be on the other side. And that's a big difference. An example I'll give you, it happened to me in 2018. 2018, people would ask me, what do you think about Trump? First thing I would say, Trump wasn't on the ballot in 2018. So what difference did that make? And this is a true story. A guy actually came to me 2018, and he's talking about how he's going to lose his farm. He's literally going to be losing his farm. He had a 6th-generation farm in New York State, going to lose it. And his first question to me wasn't, how are you going to help me with my farm, blah, 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 nothing. It was, what do you think about Trump? And all I said is, I don't care about Trump. He's not going to affect your farm. If he's going to do something that's going to help you out, I'm on his side. If he's not, I'm against him. That's all I care about. It doesn't matter to me. And he was like, okay. And then asked me the questions. I didn't say, hate Trump, can't stand him. If I'd have said that, he'd have walked away and lost his farm and not cared. So I went a bit long on this, but that's how culture war actually works in day-to-day campaigning. It is a litmus test. It is, can I hear you or not? And you don't have to be on their side. You can't be on the other side, or you are invalid. All right, sorry, I went long on that. Dennis, you wanted to keep going down a road? I'm sorry. Did you remember, or did I talk so much you forgot?
Sorry, I had to mute because I sneezed, and I won't tell you why I sneezed.
Okay.
No, I
Are you a furry, Dennis?
I am a furry. I'm allergic to myself.
He's allergic. He just got his new outfit, and it's getting his yes.
Yeah. No, what I wanted to ask about was how you would enforce this stay in your lane policy. Is that an audit? Is that how do you enforce it?
Yeah, it's a good question because one of the rules that we have is at no point can any policy add any police, right? We don't want a new police force. This is going to be the SEC police force or whatever. We don't want any new police forces at all. So your points are very valid one, Dennis. And I think you have to, at a minimum, keep the same level of regulators or lower them. You cannot raise any cops, right? It's the same level or lower. So if appropriate, I think we keep the same SEC people who would normally be auditing right now, who are auditing all the regulations there's bazillions of them that only audit one thing. Are you putting, these things into the market or not? Or we could just do it by, does someone sue you? I mean, it could be that simple, right? Is someone angry? Did someone get mad because you lost their money? It could be that too, in theory. They can go either way. If we wanted to get rid of regulators, we have to go that way. If we don't, you keep the same regulators, don't change anything, and then we just look for something different. They'd only be looking for the investment bank to stay an investment bank. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Let me ask you this. If we're worried about grandma and grandpa not understanding, aren't most people covered by this $250,000 insurance policy?
No, that's if it's an account, but not if I gamble it away. You're not covered if you gamble it away.
I think what Larry's saying is they don't have their money isn't in $250,000 in a bank somewhere. Their money is an insurance policy that this bank then took and lumped together with a bunch of other garbage and then sold as Class A, and then everything. The story.
Yes, and what happens is that creates an environment, which is what happened with SVB. They had an environment of, we can just gamble all the money away. It doesn't matter that it's your goddamn payroll. That's irrelevant. We gambled all the money away, which is what they did, right? For those who are listening who don't know, they took all that money and they bought basically what should be safe bonds. But then as the Fed kept raising the prices, the coupon on those bonds was no longer valuable anymore. So they lost all their money. They shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have been in the market buying bonds. That should have been just doing savings and loan stuff only. Now, to be forward, would that necessarily stop those people in SVB? Maybe not, because some of them are exciting tech bros, and they would have loved to put their money into an investment bank. But if you do that, then that's not covered by FDIC anymore, because it's an investment bank. Good luck.
Now they go on.
But it is covered. They did get bailed out, right?
They did, right? But because they're just a bank, and FDIC didn't cover investment banks before, but now it covers all the banks. only covered savings and loans. So they wouldn't, in this new world, be covered. FDIC's not covering you anymore. Good luck. So
weren't they already not covered though?
No, they weren't covered over 250,000.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yes. So so now what has to happen? Well, now the bank has to get its own insurance. Eric's been talking about this before. Now, if I'm an investor, I have to get my own insurance. Well, if I know that and I'm an investor and I'm going to put $200 million into your bank, well, then I need some insurance in case you go under. I think it changes the game, is what I'm saying. I think this changes culture of the individual person. I think the average person doesn't want to put their mortgage into the market, is what I'm saying. If anyone has a better idea, I'm open for a better idea. This is the idea that seems to make sense to me.
To kind of play off your idea, like if you're going to invest my, the meager savings I put in there, you got to let me know what you're investing in. So you have to ask mom and pop, be like, we've got this, thing that we want to invest your money into, which we will give you none of the profits off of.
Yeah, but they do that already, right? They already do that, right? I remember my parents, right? They had no idea. I'm not joking. They were like, I like this guy, Jay, at the bank. He's a good guy. That's why they believed everything Jay told them. Now, Jay might have been awesome, and Jay might have been an idiot, or Jay might have been a bad guy, or Jay might have been a great guy. I don't know. I never met Jay. All I'm saying is they liked him, so they gave Jay all their money. Now, luckily, Jay didn't lose them that much money. It was fine. It wasn't that bad. But my point is, they just gave Jay the money. Jay did what you said, Eric. He did. And they were like, he's a nice young man. And they gave him all their money. Yes. And my point
Jay
is,
Madoff.
yes, he was Jay Madoff. Yes. So no, but my point being, if my mom and my dad would have known that this was an investment bank, they would not have put their money there in the first place. They would have gone to a savings and loan.
Because
should a public bank only be a savings and loans?
If it's a public bank, I think it has to be, right? Because if not, if it's a public bank and it becomes an investment bank and it loses money, the taxpayers are paying for it.
So that brings me to the other issue. So
are there any savings and loans anymore? Sorry.
No, say it again, Eric.
Are there any savings and loans anymore? Because
why would you be a savings and loan? There's no need. In fact, for those of you who are old enough, you might remember this. Back in the day, all they cared about was you getting new accounts. In fact, they gave you a gift. When my first account, I was like 15 years old. I had a job. I was 15 years old in the early 80s. And I went and got my first bank account. And they gave me a gift for opening a bank account. They gave me an electric can opener. I know because I gave it to my mom. I still remember I got a gift. They just give you toasters or something. They give you some little thing. Thank you for opening up an account. And I put like $100 or whatever. I forgot what the amount was. It wasn't like huge, like $100. I literally put like $100 in the account and they gave me electric can opener. I gave it to my mom. All they wanted was just to get your account. You actually had interest. I remember this is in the 80s. So remember this. You could put a CD, certificate of deposit for 2 years and get 10% interest. That's unheard of now. 10% interest. That's how savings and loans made their money, is by interest. That's how they made their money. Loans and interest. Loans and interest. And that was a safe way. Banking was boring. You couldn't go to a savings and loans and get like, I want to get, bonds. And they didn't do that. That's what they did. You had a savings and loans. You had to go to your investment guy for that.
I got prompts. I don't know if you can see it yet. Little booklet.
There we go.
For savings, American savings, gave it to kids. They collected their quarters. Sorry.
Yeah, I used to have one of those things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine was an Apple though. I think because I was they said it was like the Johnny Appleseed Club or something, and I had the same thing where you put quarters in it.
Here we go.
But so that's the other. So the thing that you said about the 10% on the CD, right? But they're also charging 18, 20, 22% for your mortgage and whatnot, right?
They were.
Now, so I feel
my parents got their mortgage at 14%.
Yeah, so that's and like you said, there's a 4% margin right there where you can make your money, right? So that's not a lot, but they're still making money. But my point is now we're used to all this like this heroin, right? 2%, 3%, all yes, exactly. So, and this is I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Kids my age are used to that, buying a house at that. They see 7%. They say, oh my
No
God.
one your age buys a house. Stop, Greg.
No. Okay. Anyway, so my point is, yes, you're right. And 7% interest isn't going to make us want to do it. And neither is 14 and neither is 20. We're not going to buy a house. So this is my question, right? Like, you've got your Dodd-Frank or your Glass-Steagall thing. My question is, okay, you've got that in place. Now, how do we move to a system where maybe now I got to do 14% on a mortgage? You know, do people just have to, and now I can't even make any money because inflation is so high. Also, the bailouts from the Fed, how do you now, we run on those. We have for the past 30 years. I feel like there's got to be some other thing to take care of all these other ripple effects.
I think those are all valid points, brother. I think you're right on all those things. The reality of it is the time of a 2%, 3% mortgage, those days are gone. We're going back naturally to a 7 or 8 or 9% mortgage. That is going to happen over the next couple of years. The Fed's been very clear about it. They're going to keep raising rates. That's going to happen. And we'll have to get used to it. That will suck for some people. However, the biggest reason why we have no one buying houses is not because the interest rates are so high. It's because big banks and financial institutions have bought all of the land. They buy all the housing and raise all the rents. That's why there's no inventory, because it's all owned by big real estate companies. Why are they doing that? Because the bond rate is so low, because the interest rate is so low. They get free money and bonds suck. So we give them free money. So what do? They go, we're going to buy. Let's buy property. If this changes, they will stop buying property, not because they care about rent. They don't, because a better bet would be to buy bonds or to invest in other forms of investments. Like we talk about the NIST, the New York State Social Trust. They'll invest in those things because it'll be a safer way of bringing back a good investment. They'll do that, which means they'll buy less houses. The price will come down by default. Not just that. If I have a 7 or 8% mortgage, I can't make a monthly nut that's too high. I can't cover that. So they will have to lower the prices. Otherwise, no one's going to be buying houses. So will there be some disruption in the process? Yeah, Craig, I think you're right. But there's disruption now.
Yeah, no.
We're collapsing now. I'm saying right now we're going to collapse and have a hard time, and then it will still suck. There'll be no change, and we'll have another crash worse. But with this plan, at least, it's a real fix for the future, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with all of that. The housing thing with the prices coming down, you're right. If I have to pay 12% now on something that's half as expensive, I'm still, I'm in better shape. So yeah,
Correct.
Maybe that will drive the price down. But how do you stop? So the Fed's they're going to keep raising rates, but are they going to stop bailing out? Because that's the muddy water, right? Uncle Joe says,
yes.
Oh, taxpayers aren't on the hook. I promise, right? He promised. So now what's the Fed going to do? They got to print more money, right? So how do you stop that?
I don't have every answer for you, Craig. I was just doing the banking thing, dude.
No, I
was doing the banking thing. Craig wants me to solve the world. I don't got the world to solve tonight. That's
why we're here, isn't it? We're trying to come up with a policy. So I'm asking, how do we stop Uncle Joe from writing checks with money that he doesn't have, that the Fed doesn't have?
Generally speaking, the higher the interest rate, the less bailouts they do, because the money's not free anymore. Right now, the money's free. So keep bailing out. Once the interest rate becomes higher, the money isn't free anymore. There should be less bailouts. That's what should happen. But you're right. We're kind of addicted. And sometimes when you're addicted, you want that Jones. You don't care how much it costs. Sometimes you just want it.
But I still think there's going to be bailouts, because these clients of Dennis's, these noble people, had free money. Had free money, like basically free money. And the minute you raised it 0.5%, they lost their minds, and we had to bail them out anyway. So if we increase the rates, they're like, no, but I'm used to borrowing it for free, and now I'm upset.
Yes. And my point is, the Fed's doing it anyway. It's happening.
And moreover, you're getting you're going to get that 14% mortgage, but you're never going to get your 10% savings account.
But again,
you
hold
might,
on.
though, if you're
No,
doing the
no,
savings
you
and loans
will
like Larry's,
if
right?
you do that savings and loans thing.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
Because now I can gamble my money on the bullshit market, or I can get the guaranteed 4% return when I do a 10% CD and then put all that money into the 14%
That's correct.
mortgages.
You absolutely can.
Could we bring back gold and silver certificates where the cash is actually backed by precious metals?
Now you're asking too much, Garrick. Look at you.
I want to throw one more monkey wrench in the plan, just for shits and giggles. With CBDCs, right, central bank digital currencies, the idea is that they could theoretically track every single transaction. So theoretically, an argument in favor of CBDCs would be that you'd be able to track these banks and how they're investing the money that's in them. How does that affect your policy idea?
Well, I hate the idea you just said. You just made me like.
I think it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you know I'm against it, but I like.
So now I'm mad at you, Dennis, because you said stuff I don't like.
What was Dennis's garbage idea?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, exactly. You knew it was garbage. So,
his banker's idea. What was his banker's idea?
Oh yeah, that's right. He's bought by Big Bank.
Awesome.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No. To be forward, I think it helps the government. Oh, I didn't even say it, but it helps the government control it. I think you're right. Right. It would make it even safer. In fact, you could even flag any transaction that was an illegal or bad transaction. In theory, you could even stop it.
Are we talking about
Fedcoin? Central bank digital currencies. The idea that
Fedcoin, yes.
Yeah, Fedcoin, right.
So now to be forward, this wouldn't be the end of the world if enough people were to rebel and keep using other currencies and such. If you only had what is it again?
CBDCs.
Thank you, CBDCs. If you only had CBDCs that were only for the initial money that came out of the government into the big banks, but then other people using other things, it still sucks, but the world's not going to end.
I love that idea. And in 1933, that's not what happened, right?
That's correct. It did not happen at all. You're correct. Yeah. So in theory, that would work, but I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think you're right. I think we're on a bad spot. But at a minimum, look, to be forward, sometimes we can't fix things, but can we make them less bad? Then I think we should, right? And I think this type of thing does make things less bad. That's what I would say. It does make things less bad. I don't want the government monopolizing currency, clearly, but it looks like they're going that route. The surveillance state is getting stronger and stronger. We see it everywhere. They're checking everything. All I'm saying is if we're going to have this and we can't stop it now, then at least make it simple enough that everyone can understand what they're up against. One of my biggest pet peeves is when judges say, or cops or judges or prosecutors say, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. You can't know all the laws in any given city, not even saying any given town or any state or any country. You cannot. If we began reading the laws now, I'd be dead before I was finished reading all the laws.
You'd be dead before you got through the first chapter.
So there's no way that anyone can know all the laws. So we are by default guilty of stuff.
How about that
simplify
as a policy change? How about ignorance of the law is an excuse and you have to prove that they knew that it was against the law?
I would love that.
Why not change that? I think the vast majority would be on board for that. Like prove that.
Hold on. Okay. So Eric is now messing everything up. So Eric is saying the policy is now that when it comes to criminal law, that it's okay. So you're saying it's not innocent until proven guilty, that there's now multiple levels of guilt.
Yes.
Right? So the level of guilt, one has to be, did the person do the thing, whatever is the thing? Two, did the person know that it was illegal? Or I think you have to say no, it was illegal or wrong. In other words, we all know that taking someone's stuff and killing somebody is wrong. If you don't, too bad, go to jail, right? So I think it has to be either wrong or known. Sadly, most of our laws are victimless. So we don't know we're breaking a law, right? The vast majority of our laws are victimless. We had all the laws we needed probably like in 1902 or something. We had all the laws we needed, right? We had fraud and murder and whatever. We had all those laws. That's fine. Now we have 80,000 more laws that are just don't do what we say or I'm mad at. Don't do what I don't say because I'm mad at you. So maybe is that a constitutional amendment?
So where does that
Is the
ignorance of
opposite
the
of-
law?
Is
No.
ignorance of the law, no excuse in the Constitution?
Right.
So
I don't know.
It's not there. So
So
why
that's where
assume that
what I was just going to ask.
That's the default.
That's where I was just going
No,
to
no,
ask.
but
You
it has
want to know
become-
the future of this, guys. Here's reality, right? We look at ChatGPT and all that stuff today. You're going to walk around, you're going to have a device, and every time you're about to do something wrong, it's going to tell you that's against the law. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that sucks for you people with the devices. Me, I have my flip phone. I'm sitting pretty.
Yeah, but then you're
do you
going to get
do you
then you're going to
remember-
get arrested for not having a device, just like you get arrested for driving without
And I'm
insurance.
ignorant of the fact that I should have a device.
Just
thus
try
I'm innocent.
next time you drive your car without insurance or without a license, just tell the cop, no, I didn't know you couldn't do that. See how that
Yes,
works. Like,
it's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
But did you guys have you ever seen the Stallone movie from like 30 years ago? I think it's the 90s called Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
The
You ever see
documentary.
that old movie?
The documentary.
It kind of was, yes. But in that, if they hear you do something, the machine tells you what you did wrong, and then credits you, gives you a ticket. They're like, you just walk around and goes, 1 demerit for so and so, $10 or whatever, right? It tells you that. So we're gonna have that, Eric. They're gonna punish
Happening
you.
in China
No,
today.
That's
happening in
yes,
China
that is
today.
correct.
There is actually a
But
practical.
at least the machine tells you, though,
It's true.
right?
No.
The opposite is they'll let you do all these crimes, and then when you're a person that they want to rake through the coals, they'll be like, we saw that you did all this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
Eric,
dare you?
Yeah, you're
Like
100%.
you couldn't warn me when you saw me
Yeah.
do it 3 years ago. You
Yep.
got all these records.
The practical application of this actually would be jury nullification. If juries were educated and started giving verdicts that are consistent with the actuality of the law, that affirms common law. And that
Well, actually, I'm doing a seminar on that tomorrow. By the way, if anybody wants to check it out, you can go into my Facebook page or onto my Twitter, and you will see I'm actually talking with the lovely and talented Kirsten Tynan on fully informed juries. So yes, I'll be doing that tomorrow at noon. So please join in if you want to.
I'm actually
Also-
I'm doing a podcast tomorrow. I'm interviewing people who've done jury duty, and I want to from that
Yes.
angle educate as well.
I've done jury duty and I've been a jury consultant. I've been on both sides. I've helped pick juries and I've been on a jury. So I have both sides. That's why she picked me. Yes.
I gotta get you on my podcast, man.
I'm next.
So
yes.
also back to the alternative currencies. That's
Look
a
at them starting trash.
that's it. Whatever. It's a gold back. That's gold.
Yes.
And there's people there. So there's a few states where you can actually use these as currency.
All right, hold on, guys. We are like way off track. Let's. Once Craig
I thought
pulled
we were
out the
talking
gold
about
thing,
money.
I'm like, we way off track now. Okay.
No, we're
way
talking about
off track.
money. I'm saying
Yes.
that this is a thing. Like
He's sticking with your theme. Keep it simple. And the Fed, gold backed currency.
No, you were
as
no.
simple
Larry
as it
said,
gets.
Larry said, short of getting everybody to use alternative currencies, like it was a thing that wasn't possible. I'm saying this is already happening in multiple states. Like this is a thing. It's happening. So that is a possibility.
Agreed. So let's go back to, we had two separate policies. Eric screwed us up by throwing up his monkey wrench thing, but actually it's a good, I like the monkey wrench. That was a good one.
Well, that'll force people to tune in next time to hear us air that one out.
But maybe that's a thing but that could be done at a state level.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't have to be national. Right.
And then everybody
But
moves to your state because you don't throw them in jail.
But now what you're doing, you have two problems with that, right? Two. Problem number one is the attack is going to be Eric is soft on crime. He wants murderers to go free because they didn't know that it was evil to murder. Even though that's not what you're saying, that will be the attack. And the second piece is you have a culture that cops and prosecutors put everybody in jail, and that's what they do. And so why would I not do that? So judges believe that. I feel like tough. It's a yes, I like it. You could do it in a state level, because what would happen, to Jerome's point, is juries would actually be able to go, yeah, he did a thing, but he didn't know any better and no one got hurt, so who cares? Right? Because the crime is against the state. Right? In the criminal court, the crime isn't against the individual. The crime's against the state. That's the bigger problem of our entire thing. The crime's against the state. People always go, are you going to press charges? You don't have to press charges. The state will do what the hell it wants. It'll charge whoever they want, whenever they want. You don't have to press charges. They're not going to call you as a witness because you're going to be like, I don't want this guy to go to jail. They won't call you as a witness, but they'll still do it. You just won't have a victim there. So the crime's against the state. So why would the state want to do this? I think that's my worry. That makes any sense, Eric?
Where's your lawyers that we were going to get on our side for the railroads or for the banks? I forget now. Those special lawyers. I never found out how we were going to get us on our side.
Trial lawyers.
Yeah. Can we get them on our side for this?
No, this is the problem, right? I've brought this up in the past, right? Defense attorneys do not have a strong union at all. They are not united. They do not get together. Defense attorneys are not that way at all. If defense attorneys had a powerful union like that, they could, but they don't. It doesn't exist. The culture of defense attorneys are far more lone wolf than other attorneys.
So it's just that they've got big egos and they want to work alone, or is there something else going on?
I don't know, to be forward. I mean, look, to be forward, if you're, and I've worked with defense attorneys.
You know what might solve that? Reverse bail.
Tell me about that.
Well, if you're being arrested and the state needs to hold you because you're so dangerous, they put up a bond saying you're so dangerous, we have to hold you. You could use that bond. So if you win the case, you get that bond, and now you could pay your defense attorneys. So now they have
I remember that. Right. Yes. And my worry, there's several things now. So now,
who's getting arrested right now?
Yeah, someone's getting arrested right now.
Excuse me, I gotta go chase that.
He's like, hold on. Yes. I gotta go chase that shit. Hold on. Yeah. But no. The worry that I have with that is, again, you're soft on crime. You care about criminals. Why are we paying for the criminals? Right. That kind of thing. So I think but I get where you're going with it. It's not bad. Then the state pays. Does that mean that now?
If you need to hold me hostage, pay up or shut up. If I got accused for a crime, wins the court date, I'll be there. If you need me to be there, absolutely, because I'm a danger to society, you better put some money up if I'm so dangerous. If you're so convinced you're going to find me guilty, no risk to you, right?
Okay, but who gets? Hold on. So you keep. No one keeps the cash. It just stays basically in escrow.
Yeah, and if I'm acquitted because my defense attorney is awesome, hey, thanks. Here's the money for getting me out. So
that's not bad, because
it behooves the prosecutor to be like, I better have a real case, because otherwise this murder is going to get a couple million.
So how does this work though in the case of plea deals? Because nothing goes to trial at all.
Yeah, it ends that.
It ends it?
Well, I mean, like, I would probably start it on the because
no, it wouldn't end it at all, because now I have to get a conviction or I got to give the money out.
Yeah.
So I'm pleading everything now to make sure I get a conviction. Yeah. Otherwise, I got to pay.
Yeah. So now it makes me fight even harder to get all of my convictions.
Well,
maybe.
Because that's all they
went on all these policies. We went way off the rails.
Yeah,
all right. So yeah, it's getting late. I want to wrap this up. We literally did not solve one policy at all. So this was not our best show.
No, but we're turning ideas. Maybe we'll inspire some people.
We did. Absolutely. We did turn some ideas. However, I want to go back to the state level. I think maybe even federal, the reverse bail concept. We need to flesh that out. I see it's good and it's bad. We should flesh that out. The other idea you brought up about the, they had to know it was bad. That's also challenging, but the idea is not a bad idea. We have to work down that one too. The Glass-Steagall piece didn't solve that one. So we have 4 now open ones. Craig, you already took care of the first one. Who can take care of the other 3 to have them written up for us for next time?
Not it.
Not it.
I could probably jot some things down. So you want me to? The three things are the Glass-Steagall, the reverse
and the
bail,
two you had. Two of them were yours.
Yeah,
so those you have to know.
Eric's sitting there. He's like, "Here, I'm gonna spew it. Someone else put it down."
Yeah, I just throw bombs.
I'm gonna throw some shit. Hey, Jerome, write some stuff down. I'm throwing stuff. That was Eric. I'm throwing some shit out there. Come on, Jerome, write some stuff down.
Reverse bail, and I'll write something up for the ignorance of the law and reverse bail.
Write something up.
Next
for the
time
ignorant.
we are. Next time we meet, we're gonna have to. We have like 6 open things. I still have the thing open that you wrote last time, Eric, and that's still sitting here too. We gotta wrap some stuff up. We have a lot of open things. Good discussion. But let's wrap them up because I want to start by the summer. Remember, we have a presidential candidate coming up next year, right? And we want to be able, and we're gonna have both governor and presidential elections next year. The gubernatorial elections are going to be for ballot access. The presidential election is for the whole marbles. So we need to have some good state and national policies available for them to grab if they need them.
You're saying certain states have gubernatorial next year?
Yes, next year a lot of states have governor's races, and many of them are for ballot access. Not all, but many of them are. Statewide elections, generally speaking, as a general rule, affect ballot access. So we want to have some of these policies available for them for next year. That makes sense? Do we know when we want to have our next meeting? Do we want to do April 25th, April 18th?
Yeah. How's that all sound? Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I will be out that week. You guys can do it that week if you want to. I'm going to be traveling.
You're out which one? The 25th or the 18th are you traveling?
I'm out the week of the 17th.
All right, so you want to do the 25th? Can we do April 25th, everybody?
Dennis is schmoozing with all those big bankers.
Exactly. He's in the Cayman Islands that week.
This is a government conference I'm going to. I'm going to be a presenter.
Presenting to the government bankers. Wow. I don't know.
See that?
Maybe we ought to.
Dennis is our mole. He's really a statist.
Yeah, but the problem with moles is they go both ways, so we got to keep an eye on them.
Dude, you can't say that very loud. My wife is in the other room.
There we go. Yes, exactly.
Recording him.
Yes.
Recording him.
And it's live on the internet.
Exactly. Yes. So anyway,
yeah.
so he's a furry mole who goes both ways. Very impressive, Dennis. Very impressive.
And I'm a furry. Yeah.
Exactly.
Just get it all out there.
So yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Are we good?
The 25th at 9:00.
Yep. Is that good for everybody?
Works for me.
Yeah.
All right, MB, and let's meet up either a few minutes before or send some emails before to know what we're going to actually wrap up. Let's close at least one thing next time.
Yeah, and
so something to put up.
Let's try to maybe we'll sort out like having a clock on the topics because we kind of go,
Yeah. I agree.
Clock.
Yes. All right, guys, have a good one. Everyone who's watching, thank you so much. Hope it was helpful for you all. Hope you saw kind of how we walk down roads. I hope it was very good. And if you liked it, please click that like button. Share if you want to share. You can still super chat if you want to. Support my sponsors, theadvocates.org. Take one of their quizzes. Take one of their surveys. It does matter. Share it so that they're happy and I'm happy. It does matter. Guys, have a great night. I will see you all very soon.